time for some MBA teams. Thank you, Ivan. Buy some time for some MBA teams that might help us with some of this small developer capacity building this fall and next spring. So there's much stuff, and I'll take some responsibility to come back up with that topic, and I'll do it in coordination with Esther and Jessica and Andy, and bring it back to the next meeting. Is that okay?
Yeah, Keith, can you just clarify what's an MBA team?
Oh, the Solution Center at the Craig School of Business offers for a price, putting 5 MBAs into a study or a project for a full semester. It's really powerful. We've used it for food projects. We've used it for a supermarket. We used it for some Better Blackstone stuff. And so I've been talking to the guys at Gazarian about what might it cost for us to buy some time around the small developer issues, and see if we can get a team to just really go deep in terms of national best practices and how we could put something together here. It's only still at the very conceptual stage. It wouldn't even start till this fall. It'd just be an adjunct to the things we're talking about. But anyway, I'll bring that back.
So, and I think that I think that part of what, it's not that we need to necessarily create something new, because we have in our housing work group document, we have really outlined our long-term and short-term goals. And so if there's any updates, and we're going to talk about that today briefly too, if there's any updates that any of us organizations, or I think the only, Southwest, which isn't on the call today, Southwest isn't included in the housing work group document, our original one, so they need to be added. But if there's any updates to that, we need to update that, because that's really going to outline where we're all at with our development. That's something that can be, used for our grant applications for Chan Zuckerberg to say, here's where we're at, here's what we need. This can be used for this conversation around where are our goals. Here's what each of us would like to be doing in the next 18 months to 3 years. Here's our long.
Esther, just to give you, so we are in the process of updating it, especially my one-on-ones. I've given the deadline of the 16th of June so that the update can happen before the end of the month. What we currently have, I just put a link in the chat if anybody wants to see that. I think what we currently have gives us a good idea of the work that everyone is doing and has, the goals that we have thus far. I think the updates that are going to come are going to be minor and project based. But it would be maybe 3 to 4 projects that would be an update. So there's just something to kind of use as we process globally what mentorship could look like. I think we have a good foundation to start a conversation from at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe as we're updating it, Andy, maybe that's another great question, because we have like our short-term housing goals, we have our long-term housing goals. Maybe add a third gap page that could be kind of sidebar, doesn't get put into the whole document, but really can be used for conversations like these.
Yeah.
Where each organization, fills in where their gaps are or where their high needs are. And I think in the meantime, one of the things that would be really helpful for many of us as we're doing this, as I've just heard, Keith, one of the things you said is building out that, who do you know, right? We need to know what realtors we can work with that are great, that get it, right? We need to know who are the architects that can do stuff. So I think that's something else. I don't know if it needs to be part of this or something separate, but some of us have a little bit of experience, others have a ton of experience and know folks that can work on different scales of projects, right? an architect that's really good at multifamily, commercial, residential may not be the right person to work on one of the historic homes in downtown Fresno that I'm working on, right? Or tiny houses, right? So sometimes there's differences there, but that's where this collaboration comes in and can be really useful. So maybe we can same time.
So what you're saying is what we need is a resource list of
Yeah,
of a team you would build a resource list, like here are 6 contractors and these banks are amenable to tiny houses and like that. Here's
Yeah.
a lawyer who will take on small projects to organize, right?
Right.
I think in
Yeah.
our income development class, they talked a lot about building your wheelhouse, right? Building
Yeah.
out the group of people that are around you that help you get things done. And I don't think each one of us has to individually build that out completely, right? That's somewhere where we can help each other out. And so we can share resources, and that's business. That's better for the people that have worked with us to get a good recommendation to go work with somebody else, right? So yeah, I think that would be a really good first step for us to start kind of that shared resource list or wheelhouse, maybe we want to call it.
Yeah, that's good. That's right. Good.
Can Andy set something up on Google where we can add people that we know that might work in this kind of environment?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing is the document that we have started, not the link that I shared, but the backend document that we continue to update internally. That has its place, and now we need to grow into a dashboard style of documentation that includes, just tabs that have our resources. Maybe we break it down to project lists and focus areas so that there's notes there. So I can start to create something a little bit larger to encompass all of this information. So we're not adding spaces within that document and confusing communication among us. So I'm happy to get that going and to send it out by next week for you guys to give feedback on what's missing, to add input, and we'll just keep growing from there. And then that could be a tool that we use as we continue to develop. So yes, Jen, I'm happy to do that, but I think I'm going to change the format a little bit.
Okay.
Hey, that sounds great. And one comment I'd make is that if we can do this collectively, I'll just use Jessica as the straw man in the discussion, if that's okay. I think Jessica wants to help, but she can't do one-offs, all the time. If we could have 4 or 5 people that need her expertise on a certain topic, they come together, and then there's really great impact for her, and great impact for us. And we can only really offer her that opportunity if we all know what we want and need.
Yep, I will be your straw man. And just a reminder, I think there's a lot of power in numbers. The idea of not for someone like me, but in terms of the requests and the needs, it's a lot more powerful to say, these 6 community organizations are looking for this kind of, gap money or support from the city, or dedicated staff, any of those kinds of requests. It's a lot stronger when it's, real projects in front of, a grouping of real projects. For what it's worth, I feel like everything happens in Fresno during a budget month. So I don't know if there's any way, but, might be worth kind of getting just this concept right, and the idea of a small developer fund in front of the city, ask for something to be included as a part of budget talks.
Isn't something like that in this plan?
we certainly haven't packaged it for, prime time discussions with council members yet. That's a very interesting strategy. I don't know how we plunk that in, but that's a good idea.
I don't know if we're ready to move into like a bigger discussion around our edits. I don't know a better way to say them. Our suggestions, our edits, our notes for the.
Let's do it.
But I think that's what Jessica just mentioned is sort of, we can add that in under a few of these different priorities. So, I think it's in how we talk through this. So I don't know, does anybody have any big thoughts, questions about our notes page?
I have a question on 34.
Mhm.
This whole downtown development exclusion. I think that's a pretty important thing to get out of there.
Can you put it on the screen? Can somebody screen share? Can somebody screen share this?
Hey, Ivan, I'm going to put the link of what they're talking about in the chat just because I'm going to take a phone call in a second. And so I don't want to pop off mid screen share. So if you don't mind screen sharing, that would be great.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so our first notes there is priority 34. And that is to strategically incentivize the development of affordable housing. Where this is one place in the document where all of us CDCs are mentioned as being part of the org recommendation, which is really important. Problem being for several of us that work in downtown, that this specifically says on page 46. So let me go back to page 46 of the document. They're talking about incentivizing the development of affordable housing. The city of Fresno will prioritize the offering of fee waivers to affordable housing projects only, which is great. Fee waivers are awesome. While this relegation will exclude downtown development, which is our big question mark, right? Why will it exclude downtown? We'll proactively market this waiver program to affordable housing agencies, which would be us. Great. Additionally, we are doing a significant subsidization of affordable housing projects that will provide affordable housing options to between 50 and 80% AMI. So this is really where their target is, that 50 to 80% AMI. Later in our strategic plan chapter, we will outline how this investment would be allocated to yield 1,200 plus units of affordable shelter in the next 3 years. Based on recent SurveyMonkey of 11 agencies involved in local affordable housing, which was us, their organization maximizing its ability to create housing stock to help satisfy our community's need was due to the lack of subsidies and/or. So this really came out of the conversation that we all had with you. So yeah, so again, big question. So our notes here, Lowell's note was why exclude downtown development? Does the fee get paid to the city by CDBG funds, or is the funding amount going towards the project? So I asked that question because when you flip over to the funding part of what this is gonna cost. Where is it? Page funding. I didn't put a number on there. Oh, yeah, the funding part, it says it's 56 million. Is that $1 million?
Yeah, it says 56 million, what you have on the schedule, 56 million for 1,200 units, which is a little under 50,000 per unit.
Right. This is what they're budgeting for this line item. And it looks like they're gonna be using CDBG and other funds. So my question here is, are they thinking that CDBG funds are gonna go to pay the city for those fees? That's where the fee waiver's coming, or is the city just forgiving this and the CDBG funds will go to the actual development, right? That's the big question that's not in here. So that was my question. Chinatown said we need to lobby to include
So
down,
whether they're paying themselves or whether they're paying us.
yes. Yeah. Because what I found is the fees to do some of these things, in some cases, like, for example, we applied for CDBG funds to build a shade structure at the park, okay? That budget was $17,000 for building the shade structure at the park. It was a city project. They didn't write the grant. We wrote the grant because they weren't gonna do it. It got awarded. So then they start through the process to build it. And then the city sends me a bill for the permits and the planning for $7,000 for the permits to build a shade structure at the park. And I pushed it back and I was like, no, y'all, this is
Your park.
your park. No, the budget is $17,000. I can't add another $17,000 on here to pay you all for the permits to build a park shade structure at your park. Like, figure that out. Like, that's where, are they gonna go find other funding? Or are they just gonna figure out a way to like forgive the $17,000, right?
So for what it's worth, I would guess they're using the CDBG to pay it. Like building permit fees is one, but impact fees, if those are waived, it's they're using general fund to pay for it, because they still have to pay, you know, the school fee, the police fee, the fire fee. So I haven't read that specific one, but that would be my guess. It's usually another funding program that essentially has to reduce the cost to the developer.
Right.
Yes, sir, I didn't catch it. You said that they billed you for what?
It was basically, it was all the fees that went into putting in the shade structure. So there was permit fees, there was they needed a variance. So you have to pay to have a variance because it was within, the setbacks from the street. It was, yeah, there was like, so it was permitting and planning fees for the shade structure. Yeah, that was not part of our original budget. Because nobody at the city could tell me what it was gonna cost. Okay. I don't wanna get too off topic there. So I think that was my major question there. I see Better Blackstone filled in. So Better Blackstone, Keith,
Yes,
I see where you're talking about streets, connected neighborhoods.
yeah, I'd love to make everybody familiar. We're working behind the scenes to get the Drive Executive Committee to bless both the Fresno Opportunity Corridor Results Framework and Implementation Plan. And the first phase of it calls for, complete streets on these, 1 mile segments of Blackstone, Ventura Kings Canyon, and then over in Southwest Fresno. And based on the analysis we've done, they could hold 2,000 units. Each mile could hold 2,000 units. And so we are we're going for the idea of, we want to create a multi-sector coalition to go after state and federal money and philanthropic money to raise 600 million bucks. This would include a housing subsidy of $75,000 per unit for the 6,000 units and 150 million for the 3 miles of complete streets. I can fill in more on this. I just was trying to create a placeholder.
No, I appreciate that. I think my question is, does all of this belong under this priority, or does this need to be spread out between the different priorities? Because you're asking for 600 million, and that's way over the total budget for this, for their priority.
Right, we can throw it wherever you want. It can be a footnote. I just want to, we're actually meeting with the city and meeting with the Council of Governments and the Transportation Authority and a whole bunch of people. So I just want to make sure that it's part of this. And we've mentioned this to Matthew Grundy, so it can be a footnote if you'd like it to be. I just want to make sure that we've got it someplace in this process. And it's not meant to be a part of the $259 million. It's supposed to be 600 million of new money.
Right, so that's why I'm asking if this whole project belongs under this priority, or does it need to be spread out under some of the other priorities too? Because it fits here, but if this is new money, then maybe footnote that it's new money, that it's not part of 56 million of CDBG that they're talking about.
Absolutely. I can put it wherever you guys want to. I was just trying to make sure I threw something in there so that was there, and I'm happy to break it down, put it out, footnote it, whatever you'd like me to do. So I'll work on that over the next week.
Or maybe you can talk about how this priority of how incentivizing affordable development of affordable housing will fit into, will really contribute to this plan on Blackstone, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Jane Addams, you feel good about, oh, they're not on here. Oh, okay. Notice Jane Addams is here.
Are you scrolling down?
Yeah, Ivan, can you scroll just a little bit? I'm scrolling on my screen. Oh, you guys aren't keeping up. Okay.
Is that good or a little more?
No, that's good. I think we just need to maybe tighten that up too on the Jane Addams side, because that's not talking about how this priority works for them or any questions. It's big picture too. Okay, let's go down to priority 11. Or is there, I should ask in our time here together, because I want to honor folks' time. Is there any specific priority that anyone had questions on or needs help kind of seeing where they fit in or with comments? If not, we can just run through this.
Esther, what do you think is a good deadline for all of us to make sure we've done edits that are reflective of, I think, some of the great comments you made, like Friday or Monday or?
Well, I mean, the thing is, the mayor's budget is moving forward, and, you know, city council's talking about it. I think all of these things are going to be bigger conversations. We just kind of need to let that team of Matthew and Phil know what things we can add comments on. So the sooner the better. And this really, to me, just starts the conversation, and they can come back to us later and say, okay, like, we don't understand this, or can you help us fill this out? right? As they kind of push these things forward, and advocate for the different priorities. You know, they want to see all these priorities move forward. So it's just at what time, and how they get moved forward. So
Does it make sense to have one or two or three priorities that we absolutely would like them to change? Rather than saying that here are, you know, a list of 40 things that you got wrong.
that's not how this is going to be framed. It's going to be like,
I understand that.
hey, this is, you know, this is a living document that you said, and we want to like continue to engage with it. Here's some of the suggestions of how we would like to further engage with this plan, right?
Okay.
So, you know, some things are questions, some things are suggestions of where our work could fit into this plan. All of this is open to conversation, right? It's meant to be a conversation starter.
Mhm.
And
Right.
they'll come like, oh, this is wonderful. You guys did all this work for us. We'll just add you in, right? That would be amazing. But that, you know, probably won't happen. So it is meant to be a conversation starter. I don't know that there's like, I don't know that we need to pick three. The first one needs to be that 34, because that's where we all are mentioned.
Right.
So we really need some clarity on that. And then like 28 about the mint, that's like, you know, Lowell CDC, I can kind of fill that out in partnership with some of the other CDCs that I'm working with in the area, right? It doesn't have to be everyone needs to comment on it, right? So, and they know they can come back to me for more details and information on that. They already have. So, yeah. I just want to know if there's anything, there's a few of these that we have on here. 38, 47, 45, like we just don't have any notes on them. So I just want to make sure if there was still questions that people had. I think I'd like to send this off early to middle of next week. My goal was to be done with it today. You can tell that I'm not done with it, but that was my goal.
So if we have something to you Monday, that should work, Esther.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership on this. I'll make sure I'm not conflicting with the priorities and adding hopefully value and other resources to the city's plan.
Okay. Let's, is Kyle still on here? I want to make sure that we touch on the ADU one, because the ADU.
I'm still here.
Okay, cool. Because they mention, I think their whole section is a little scattered, because it's ADU specific, but then in their description, they talk about tiny homes, California tiny homes and prefab innovations, which could be ADUs, can be tiny houses, right? Different things. So are we talking about cottage development too, right? And those can be tiny homes,
Mhm.
you know, but they're not ADUs. An ADU is specific. It's an accessory dwelling unit. Are we
Right.
talking about tiny homes on a lot, 3 or 4, 5, 6, 10 of them, right? Or are we talking about 1 or 2 in a backyard? So I think that's the big question here. Do we want to offer some language around including all of these things, or do we want to like limit it to just ADUs? We're talking about 1 or 2 units in a backyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it probably deserves being broken out, because like an ADU is generally not going to have any planning challenges, because there's state law that really is supporting that. And they're more often going to be like financed through a homeowner. So that's much different from like a tiny home development that might have zoning issues related to like mobile home park or, different things like that that are gonna have its own issues. And be, like an organization or a development company financing it rather than a homeowner.
Do we need to add that we are suggesting there be some creative financing somewhere for homeowners? Because it's not easy to get this financed if you don't have a ton of equity on your house.
Yeah, we could propose, there's like a City of Oakland program where they're like internally financing ADUs, or they're working with like a CDFI to do that. I think they're working with Self-Help Federal Credit Union. So probably recommend that they be broken out and that like ADU be given some specific goals and targets, especially around like internal financing, or might be even more complicated of applying covenants to like a single property owner, and the like legal cost of that might not be worth it. So that might be something to consider. I can work on typing up a couple things on that, but I think generally, if we have agreement of like splitting out tiny home and that type of development from ADUs would be helpful in having them be in different policy recommendations.
Does anybody need the resources? I pulled up the zoning codes right now, recently, on affordable housing density, cottage housing developments, and second dwelling units. Can I put those somewhere?
Yeah, add them as a note. So what you can do is like on Chinatown there, and then just make a comment on your box.
Okay.
And then put the link in the comment. If that, well, I think what would be more helpful is if you have some suggestion, or if you can clearly spell out, like, can this, like I just wrote here, can this be defined as tiny homes and ADUs? Expand the definition to include ADUs, 1 to 2 in a backyard, and tiny home villages. Or do we want to like just name it cottage? What's it called? Cottage what?
Cottage developments.
Cottage development, which is several tiny homes on one lot, right?
Yes, with some kind of amenities for the group, generally. Like a common building, a common park, just some green space, something.
Okay. And that's a by right in what zoning?
City of Fresno has a cottage development zoning.
But yes, but isn't it included in like R4, R5, something like that in our residential?
I don't know, I can't correlate with that. I just pulled
Yes.
out. There is definitely cottage. There's a section in the zoning code, cottage housing developments, pocket neighborhoods.
Yeah. I've read that, but I guess what I'm wondering is like, if I have a piece of land in Lowell that's zoned, R5, do I have to get it rezoned pocket neighborhoods or cottage development, or can I do cottage development on the R5? Like what?
That I don't know. And I don't see.
And it'd probably be in like there's like a matrix for each zone, like a medium residential zone, will have a matrix that says which project types
there's-
are allowable.
I
Let's
think
see
down-
anything here.
41.
Single covenant restricting any unit size. I don't see anything on zoning here. Hold on. No, there's nothing. There's nothing relating to that at all. So I don't know how it correlates to what a property is currently zoned.
So, Jan, could you send a quick email to either Casey or what's the guy's name?
True.
Drew, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay. And just ask that question.
okay.
Where is cottage housing, like by right? Or
Mhm.
does a piece of land have to be rezoned for it?
Okay.
Because that would be helpful. Okay,
Yeah, I'll do that.
because we don't need to suggest something that just already is. We need to be,
Right.
we need to know what we're talking about here. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody have any comments on the disincentivized rental of single-family owner-occupied homes or support affordable housing, education, resident academy?
Where are you?
Item
Oh,
47
yeah, I found it.
is to support affordable housing, education, resident academy, and Southwest is on here, Lowell CDC is on here. And I'm not.
Did you say 42?
Sorry, it's line 4, priority 47. That's down towards the bottom.
And it's page 49 in the document, right? Uh,
Yeah. I think that one is just, not sure. I think we're on there because we have homeownership program. And so it looks like that's really nothing for us to do, but it's for the office of 47. The Office of Community Affairs to partner residents
Mhm.
with providing the home buyer education, market via city outlets, community groups such as neighborhood homeownership associations, blah, blah, blah. So maybe that's yeah. What do you mean by agencies, Kyle?
So if it's, generally agencies reply to
Oh.
like a government agency or like a larger institution is one of our smaller nonprofits considered an agency to be partnered with? Is the only question.
Oh,
They-
yeah, we're listed, we are listed.
Okay,
CDC, they've listed Firm, they listed Southwest Fresno Development Corp. So the Realtus Group, Habitat for Humanity, Self-Help Enterprises, Community Housing Council. So if you want to be listed there, if you are providing any of these services, then you need to just add your name and what you're providing.
got it.
Okay. Um. Um, there any others that you guys want to take a closer look at, or we good for today? Okay, hearing none.
Yeah, I think it's great, Esther. Thank you for leading this. This is great.
Yeah,
So
I will log back on this Monday. So if you have changes, do them today, tomorrow. Because I'll log back on this Monday and just kind of look at it briefly and then draft an email to Matthew and Phil with the document and just be like, hey, let us know how we can further engage. But here's the first stab at it.
Excellent.
Keith, what is your next step with following up with MJ and Jessica about men and whatnot?
About mentoring?
Yeah. Is it just
I-
to have Andy create kind of a shared wheelhouse document?
I think let's start to create the shared wheelhouse document so that others that have some of the same kinds of questions that MJ have. MJ provided some real leadership here, everybody. So I feel this is really important. And if we can kind of get a rundown of everybody's needs in those areas, that would make this all really effective. And I think we're creating an adjunct process for our leadership group to make sure we get the right kind of mentoring and expand the wheelhouse relationships, right? So I think that's right. So if she'd start that and everybody would contribute to it, what do you need? I know I'm having a problem with lawyers. I can't seem to get them to respond. I don't know whether they're just, this is just on food stuff, let alone real estate.
It's the lawyers and structural engineers. Tell you what, they sound like big paying jobs. I don't know why our high schoolers don't want new jobs for training to be lawyers and engineers.
Yeah.
They don't sound like sexy jobs though.
Well, we'll keep everybody apprised of what's going on with this CZI grant, which is not a done deal, but how it evolves. And then I would be ready, I think, this process you started, Esther, to make sure we've got the update of our original housing strategy is really important for everybody that wants to participate so that we can show CZI who's on the team and what they're doing.
Keith, did you send them the housing work group document? Because I think I have as well.
I think Sidra sent it to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I think she had it from last year. I think she had it from last year, and Sidra renewed her acquaintance with it.
Perfect. Cool. All right.
So I guess
Thank you.
let's make it a priority
Oh.
to get this wheelhouse thing. I think this is excellent. And then the follow-up would be how can we do all this together on terms of the mentoring and the certain, in a sense, the technical assistance we need from a wheelhouse of relationships.
Oh, and one other thing you may already have all received, but Dan Zach's doing a small developer meetup on June 29th. Do you have that information?
That was just sent out, Jan, to the people who
Yeah.
went through the incremental development thing. So yeah, I saw it. I'm sure probably Keith and MJ saw it as well. Kyle,
Okay.
were you a part of that? Yeah.
Guess I'm planning to go.
Okay.
All right, y'all. Good to see you. Have a great day.
Thank you very, very
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Thank you much.
Right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.